Welcome back to the Derm Club podcast. Today, I am thrilled to have Jeff Bedard here, the man behind a brand that's become a cornerstone in the sunscreen market and frankly, in my own sunscreen closet. Here I have the Blue Lizard Sunscreen I wear all the time. And he is the man behind Blue Lizard Australian Sunscreen. Jeff is not only the founder and CEO of Blue Lizard Sunscreen, but he's also the CEO and president of Crown Laboratories. Crown Laboratories, a pioneer in the skincare sector that handles an impressive portfolio that includes aesthetics, prescriptions, therapeutics, all in the dermatology and skincare space. In our conversation today, we'll explore the origin and inspiration behind Blue Lizard, understand its unique position in the sunscreen industry, and reflect on the changes and trends shaping the sunscreen space. We'll also delve into the global market landscape and discuss Crown Laboratories' approach to product diversification in skincare. So, without further ado, let's dive in. Welcome, Jeff. It's a pleasure to have you on the show today.
Thanks so much, Hannah. It's a real pleasure to be here, and I'm excited to talk with you today and share some light around the sun care landscape and skincare landscape around the world.
Great. So, Jeff, let's just start off. Could you start by sharing the story behind Blue Lizard? What inspired you to create this brand?
You know, it goes all the way back to 1995, and a fellow dermatologist, Dr. Mark Rubin, introduced me to a gentleman in Sydney, Australia, whose family had launched a sunscreen brand in Australia. And those that are sun care aficionados, so to speak, they know that Australia is probably globally the best sunscreen manufacturer and developing company or country in the world. And so I got a chance to meet Pete Moore, who was launched a small little brand in Australia called Blue Lizard. I flew to Sydney and we talked about how we would introduce that sunscreen in the U.S. market. At that time in 1995, there was basically no zinc oxide only based products. It was kind of foreboding at the time because everybody thought it was white cast. They remembered how lifeguards in the 70s put zinc oxide paste on their noses, but nobody had really launched a clear zinc oxide-based sunscreen. And then the unique thing that we decided in launching it is the educational piece. Many people who've used Blue Lizard know about the UV color change bottle and color change cap. And that really had a purpose beyond just a neat little package. What we did is we searched for a UV absorbing light, kind of like the changing glasses for sun glasses for prescriptions.
And I still wear mine. They say it's the most embarrassing thing about me, but I love my transition lenses.
Yeah, well, this is, exactly what the bottle is with Blue Lizard. So it basically kicks in about 340 nanometers. And as you know, that's kind of the heart of the UVA spectrum that goes out to, 380, 400. And it changes color. And the more intense the UVA exposure. So it really educated people that UVA is a wavelength that travels through glass that can reflect off sun. So you can be sitting under an umbrella in complete shade and the bottle will be bright blue. Well, that means you're getting a lot of reflective UVA. So you may not burn, but you're still getting exposed to that. So all that put together, we decided that we really wanted to launch a zinc oxide-based educational dermatology recommended sunscreen in the U.S. And so we brought that to the country in 1998. So it took us 3 years to go from beginning to launch in the U.S.
I was waiting for you for a long time because when I was in a day camp many years ago already, they used to send us with sunscreen, and all the counselors would put sunscreen on us, and they would be using, I'm not going to name the brand, but they would put on this chemical-based sunscreen, and my skin I felt like I was on fire, and I was clearly sensitive and allergic to the chemical-based ingredients they were using. But at the time, there was, like you said, there was really no zinc oxide products that I knew about the lifeguard products that the pastiness under their eyes, but there was no like mainstream zinc oxide product that people were really using. And it made me like really resistant to putting on sunscreen. And now, obviously, as a rising dermatologist, I am all for sunscreen, and I smother myself in this stuff, thanks to you. But it's also so unique and so cool about the bottle, because I actually recently did a YouTube video on my favorite sunscreens for kids, and I sent it to all my friends, and I said, check out this video. And they said, my highlight of this video was that the Blue Lizard pediatric bottle that turns pink. And it's so unique. So, and I really appreciate that educational component of the sunscreen. And it's a great reminder that when people are in dangerous sunlight, it's a reminder to look at that bottle and know, put it on.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. And look, I've been in dermatology since 1984, and specifically in the sun care categories, as I said, since 1995. And when we first started, there were still so many sunscreens out there with SPF 4, SPF 8, SPF 15. And now the landscape is greatly different. And as I said, we were the first zinc oxide sunscreen to launch in the US in 1998. And it was a uphill battle because so many of the large companies were just UV absorbers, right? That's all there was. It was a different feel, a different texture that a consumer or a patient would put on their skin, and it took a little getting used to. And so, when we went in and started talking about zinc oxide and how it works compared to UV absorbers, it took a little bit of education too to get it, ingrained in everyday use. But today, the vast majority of sun care products at least have some form of mineral-based or blocking capability through the minerals, either titanium or zinc oxide.
Right. And I know they've come a long way also in terms of the cosmetic appearance to it, because I know I don't know how recent, but recently I discovered the sheer zinc Blue Lizard for the face,
Yes.
and I really enjoy it. Doesn't have that pasty look to it. So that's one of my go-tos in my sunscreen closet. So moving on. What do you believe sets Blue Lizard apart in the crowded sunscreen market? As you said, there's a lot of sunscreens out there and a lot of transitions being made. How does the Blue Lizard how does it stand out? How do you set yourself apart?
Well, and it's very difficult today since the FDA published their final sunscreen monograph, about a decade ago now, because it limits what you can describe as your product's features and benefits. It's pretty much the best you can say is 80 minutes water, or water resistant. The best you can kind of say is SPF 30, SPF 50, whatever that may be. You can't really describe a lot of the features on the package or even in marketing materials. So what really sets us apart is really the heritage that we started with. All our sunscreens are tested per Australian standards, not US. So although we can't describe on the bottle that, for example, our product stays water resistant for 240 minutes, we test to that. So when you think about Blue Lizard, it is the Australian heritage sunscreen in a very crowded US market. So what we can tell the consumer about the product is one thing, but how it actually performs in the environment in which you need it to do its protection outside, playing golf, playing tennis, swimming, just everyday activities. It is one of the most robust sunscreens in terms of water protection and UV protection out there. And it's basically because it's all those Australian standards we meet.
So that brings me to my next point, and that's, the US and the FDA has been many years. I think it's the last time that they changed their regulations was in 1999, if I'm not mistaken. And I'm sure you know that in many other global markets like Korea, some in Europe, Australia, they're developing advanced UV filters, UVA and UVB, like Tinosorb S, Tinosorb M, Uvinol A, just to name a few. And they're also using, I know on these Korean sunscreens and on some other sunscreens, or actually I've started to see this in the US, they're using the PA rating system, which describes to you the UVA rays, because as we know, the SPF is really focused on the UVB rays, and the PA system is telling you how effective you are from protecting you against those aging, from fine lines and wrinkles from the sun that's causing those things. So because the FDA has regulated the sunscreen market, and that's okay because I know they treat it as an over-the-counter drug, do you think that we're lagging behind in that aspect? And how is Blue Lizard addressing this in the United States?
Well, first and foremost, no doubt we're lagging behind the rest of the country. And you're right. The last time an active ingredient that has been added to the monograph for sunscreens was 1999. Tinazorb, we were actually formulating and working with the owner and manufacturer supplier of Tinazorb for a couple decades in hopes that it would be approved here in the U.S. I think the FDA has set unrealistic expectations in getting these APIs approved in the US. I don't hold a lot of hope that we'll see a new active sunscreen ingredient in the next decades or ever again. They're just the financial cost to prove stability and efficaciousness and getting it, toxicology, getting all that through the FDA just doesn't pay a benefit to those manufacturers, and it's such a different playing field than what it is internationally versus the U.S. So it's very difficult for us as a manufacturer and formulator to push the FDA there because the cost risk benefit just isn't there to go push for another active ingredient. So we focus on what we consider to be the premium ingredient anyway, which is zinc oxide and titanium dioxide. But there are a number of ingredients out there that perform beneficial things in the sun care market that the U.S. consumer just doesn't get a chance to try. And not everybody wants a mineral-based sunscreen, so it would be good if we upgraded those UV absorbers that seem to be doing very well outside the U.S.
Yeah, because I think their pitch is that they're more cosmetically appealing, but with still having this protection that you can get in the mineral-based sunscreens, they're more cosmetically appealing. So it makes it really difficult. And what I've heard is that, like you mentioned, that it's a costly venture because, say, Crown Laboratories says, okay, like you've mentioned, we're going to work on a filter for Tinsorb, and it costs you a lot of money to start working on that filter, and a lot of money goes into it, but then you don't even know if the government will even approve the filter. And like you said, it sounds like it's not in the cards because there's no necessity to put that money into it.
Well, and the other thing that's going on too, that you're probably aware of is the environmental impact that many groups are saying, things like oxybenzone and octocrylene and octinoxate in terms of reef safe products or environmental products that get washed into the water system or absorption into the bloodstream. I'm not a big believer that any of those UV absorbers actually are causing reef damage or are being absorbed dramatically into the bloodstream. But there's been a lot of researchers out there that certainly have talked about it. So that hinders people from wanting to go with a UV absorber with the risk that an environmental group could have you kind of locked out at some point as well.
But that's what Blue Lizard does really well. They're so environmentally friendly and they're reef friendly, reef safe. So I do have one question that I've always wondered. What does it mean when a sunscreen is gluten free?
I get that question a lot, and basically what that means is that all of the active ingredients in the packaging do not come in contact that anything would have gluten in it. So it is pure in that sense. I laugh about it all the time too because once again,
you're not eating your sunscreen.
Right? You're not eating it. I think it's certainly a good marketing claim, and there's a lot of people that are highly gluten sensitive, and anybody that feels like sunscreen could potentially get absorbed into the bloodstream. This would be safe for anybody that's gluten intolerant.
Got it. So the sunscreen industry, as we've mentioned, has seen significant changes over the years and obviously some limitations. Could you talk about these shifts and how it's influenced your work at Blue Lizard?
Well, we have, we've evolved over the years, and certainly spent a lot of time thinking about innovation and where to take the product next. Certainly we're aware of the UV absorbers, and we started with products that had a mix of zinc oxide along with 3 UV B absorbers. And that product was in our regular and sport formula. Now we have evolved to be almost 100% just zinc oxide or titanium and zinc oxide products. So as the decades have evolved and people have gone more to that blocking capability and wanted to get away from the organic carbon-based absorbers, we've moved that way. Just within the last couple of years, and you've shown the spray, I was a big advocate not to launch a spray until we could have a spray that really truly was going to work and was sort of human proof, because as you've probably sat at a pool and saw people spray their spray sunscreens a foot away from them, and you see it go away in the wind, and maybe they get a little bit on their skin. I didn't want to put something out there that wasn't going to truly protect. And when we did finally launch the zinc oxide based spray, it works, it goes on the skin, and it protects to the level it says. So we're constantly thinking about those innovations, thinking about scalp health as well, and how you get zinc oxides to go into the scalp. And hopefully we'll have some significant innovations there in the next year or two. But overall, it's about education. The best sunscreen that you can put on the market is one that the consumer is going to use. And so we always keep that in mind. How are we going to get people to want to put this on? It was easy with the color change bottle in kids early on, because they loved that aspect of it. And they were like, mommy, or dad, please, put this on. And they loved the color change bottle. And then I would hear from people, a lot of dermatologists who used it on their families. Look, we went out and swam in the ocean all day, or we went to the pool, and when I changed my kids' clothes, there were no tan lines anywhere. So you knew it really worked as well. So it had the double benefit of the kids wanting to use it, and the parents being very comfortable in the product that they chose.
Yeah, I could say the same thing. Like, I'm an avid biker, or I don't know if I could call myself avid, but I bike frequently, and I obviously want to protect my skin. And I always say, like, if there's one sunscreen that I would reach for to know that, like, I'm going to be covered, even if I'm out there for a couple hours, it's the Blue Lizard. There's something about it. I don't know if it's that you see, especially with the spray, you see the white, pastiness go on. So, like the areas you missed and the areas you didn't get, or the areas you put it on. But also I know that it's not a sunscreen that I'm going to have any sort of reaction to. It's great for sensitive skin, great for someone with atopic dermatitis, eczema. So, and if someone with atopic dermatitis or eczema can tolerate this, then anybody can. So it's definitely feels very protecting. And I always tell my patients and friends to use it. So Blue Lizard, as we know, and as I mentioned earlier, is a part of a broader portfolio under the Crown Laboratories, which covers everything from aesthetics to prescriptions and therapeutics. Just to mention one is Sarna lotion. How do you approach product diversification within the skincare spectrum under the umbrella of Crown Laboratories?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it goes right to our tagline, which is more than just a tagline, but it's Crown Skin Science for Life. And so first off, we want to be able to solve skin disease solutions for patients through their entire lifetime of skin health. So we have obviously sunscreens and products for infants all the way through toddlers, teenage years, midlife, anti-aging later. And then, prescription drugs that take you through anti-inflammatories, topical steroids, things like that. So the first thing we think about is skin science, applied to every type of skin disease that a patient could have through their lifetime journey. And then we break it into three different kind of areas of expertise. Our one area is medical aesthetics, which is a huge field, and we do that with our microneedling device, Skin Pen, and then PRP, our platelet-rich plasma program, ProGen Eclipse PRP. And then we just launched the first living microbe technology in our BioJuve skincare line, where there's actually live bacteria, much like prebiotic yogurts, that rebalances the microbiome of the skin. So that came out of the science that we developed over a couple decades in that space. And then, of course, you mentioned the therapeutic products. It's not only Blue Lizard, but it's Panoxyl, it's Zeazorb, it's Sarna, it's Desenex. Those are all focused, obviously, on OTC monographed products, so they all fit in that category. And they do something to help control, like acne for Panoxyl, which is now the #1 OTC acne product in the U.S. And then we have a premium anti-aging division, which is led by Strivectin, which is our premium skincare line with things like vitamin C and hyaluronic acid and niacinamides and things that are more anti-aging focused and good for overall general skin health and anti-wrinkle and all those things. So we cover the broad spectrum within the categories that consumers seek skin health solutions.
It's interesting because also I think you make sure that you allow, it's very affordable, and all the products, Panoxyl, and as you said, Panoxyl is sold so frequently. I mean, I recommend it all the time. I use it myself, but I think you've done a great job in making sure that everyone there's equal access to these products, because they're really affordable and they could potentially be life-changing.
Yeah, there's no doubt. Well, look, I think medical dermatology got a bit of a rap with some companies that had kind of price gouged on some topical creams that, all of a sudden you saw somebody charging $1,000 for a 15-gram tube of a steroid product that is pretty, pretty well-known active ingredients. So having it affordable, having it accessible, making sure it's available at multiple locations, so it's not something hard to find, has really been part of our strategy commercially, and I think we've done a good job with that.
Well, you certainly have. Is there anything else that you would like to add that we may have not touched upon today?
I think we did a pretty good job there. Unless there's something that you want to speak about further, I'm happy with what we did.
No, you gave me a lot of insight into Blue Lizard and into Crown Laboratories, and I enjoyed our time today. Thank you for sharing with us, and I hope to speak to you again soon.
Well, thank you, and you have a great day, and thanks for inviting me.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Derm Club podcast. If you found the discussion today to be valuable, please subscribe and share. I look forward to seeing you in the next episode as we continue to delve into dermatology and skincare with the world experts.